Show this morning. The topic this morning is a United States colored trooper, and he was with the 13th Regiment, and he now has a story to tell in reference to his involvement with the regiment and how he became involved with the regiment and some of his activities as part of this regiment during this second segment. And of course, Mr. Radcliffe, let's now talk about Bill Radcliffe as a member of the United States Colored Troopers 13th Regiment.
Well, sir, my story is not unlike the other 4 million African Americans that were in slavery. Very similar. As a young boy, I grew up on a plantation in Middle Tennessee. I never knew the whip or the lash. I was just a youngster, but I saw punishment meted out for the slightest thing. What stands out in my mind, I remember seeing a woman who lived in our slave quarters, the upper slave quarters. She was learning to read by using the Bible. And they found out, and she was tied to a tree and whipped severely. And that always stayed in my mind, that to learn how to read and to be punished like that for it, there must be more treasure to it, or they wouldn't do this. So I made up my mind I was going to learn to read. And ironically, it was the master's son that helped me. I started with the Bible, and he brought me newspapers. Of course, I had to wait till dark and go in the woods, in the grove, with a small lantern and sit quietly and not make a sound. But I learned my letters and I learned how to read. As I got a little older, some of my kinfolk tried to escape. Some were caught, some weren't. Some were shot, killed, hung, some weren't. All this I saw. By the time I was in my early teens, a little lady showed up one night in the quarters. So I recall she was about 5'4". My mama was taller than she was. My mama was 5'6". And what stands out in my mind, she had a pistol that was as tall as she was. And she said, "Come on, we going." And she took my aunts, uncles. My grandparents were too old to go. They were too infirmed. My parents, cousins, it was probably 20 of us. We kept quiet and we kept moving. And I come to find out that was the Underground Railroad. We made our way through Tennessee, moving north all the time. And on this Underground Railroad, there was good black folks and good white folks that hid us, fed us, kept our courage up. And we kept our own courage up because we wanted to be free, and we believed the good Lord was going to free us one way or the other. And we entered Kentucky, crossed the river, Cincinnati, went on up to Michigan. We crossed the river at Detroit. I remember we went across the river in 2 rowboats. By now they had the law, it was called the Fugitive Slave Law. I didn't know what it was at the time because I'd only heard about it, but I managed to get a hold of a newspaper, Cincinnati. And what that was, that it gave authority to slave owners, slave catchers, and the police of every municipality. They picked up free black people and slaves, sent them back south. but by the grace of God, we weren't caught. And this went on and on and on. Then they went on to having problems in Kansas and Nebraska to decide whether that state was going to come in free or slave. And there was a lot of white folks out there that was on our side. And fighting was very serious. It hadn't escalated to war in a true sense yet, but both sides were at each other as to who was going to be a free state and a slave state. But by now, I'm in a place called St. Catharines, Canada. We're free. Free. Praise God, we're free. I attended school, grew up, got a job. I was pretty smart in mathematics and reading, so I kept at it and kept working, saved my own money, and I opened up my own shipping business. Wife, 3 children, lovely cottage, indoor plumbing. Got a house for my mom and daddy. All my kinfolk, we all lived on the same block. Everybody, those folks up there treated us like we was kings and queens. They found out we were former slaves. We couldn't do no wrong. They went out of their way to make us home. Well, my business is prospering. Got a little money put back. Got money saved up for my children's education. Mr. Lincoln gets in office. Now, there was talk before he got in office that if he did, there was going to be conflict. Talking back and forth, arguing. Heard tell a senator from Georgia whooped on a man from Massachusetts in Congress. Took a cane and beat him down to the floor. If that wasn't an indication things was getting ready to get bad, they got bad. Well, it finally come after Mr. Lincoln was elected. April 12th, 1861. I read the news in the St. Catharines Post. U.S. in a war with itself. They bombed Fort Sumter. And the next day, we find out Mr. Lincoln's going to call for 75,000 volunteers.
Okay, and let us stop right here, Trooper Radcliffe, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.